One of the statistics shows that in 2021, 900,000 people within the UK had Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is not, how can I put it? It is a prison once you've got it, but it doesn't have to happen. It really doesn't. In this episode of the Natural Medicine Podcast, we will be discussing Alzheimer's, some of the symptoms and the issues around it, but more importantly, how you can prevent it. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Harun Rapani and I am joined by Dr. Ashish. Hello, Ashish. How are you today?
Good morning or good evening, whenever all of you join this podcast. Because we have now started recording and then sharing it to save the hassle. Otherwise, we couldn't collect our time together. So I'm very well, Harun. Thank you, and it's wonderful to be talking about this topic and talking from a holistic perspective and
Absolutely.
what can holistic medicine do, natural medicine can do for Alzheimer's.
So I'm gonna. This is a bit of an emotional topic for me because the father figure to me wasn't actually my dad. Well, he was, but the person who actually spent a lot of time with me was my uncle, his older brother, 3 years older than him, and he developed Alzheimer's, and I saw him suffer for a long time. Totally heartbreaking. So I'm not going to think about it too much. And you know, when you don't know, you don't know. We treat it as an aging disease. We treat it as, oh, you're getting old, they're going to die. Well, it's also very scary for them. And we'll talk some of the psychology. More importantly, rather than talk about all the things to do after you've got it, we will discuss what you can do to prevent it. So first of all, let me just answer one simple question. A lot of people ask is, can it be cured? The answer is no, it cannot be cured. End of story. There is no magic cure, no magic pill. Dementia is the bigger general description of a number of other mental brain diseases. Alzheimer's tends to be the most common one. So, Ashish, let's first of all start talking about, well, the symptoms. You guys can look it up, like forgetfulness, memory loss, coordination or lack of coordination, lack of sleep, and so on. But let's look at the causes from a holistic point of view. So, what would you say would be, is there a number one cause? What would you say is one of the first causes we need to look at for Alzheimer's disease?
Oh, that is complex. However, everybody who has listened to me or you and I know that I speak from a holistic and Ayurvedic medicine perspective because I'm a trained Ayurvedic physician. So Ayurveda talks about all the conditions starting from your gut. So people who have got gut issues, chronic gut issues, it could be IBS, leaky gut, Crohn's disease, you name it, or gluten sensitivity, for example. There's the other one. Okay, I can't think of the name.
IBD, and there's so many.
Yeah.
So many
Irritable bowel disease. But if you have any of the gut issues, then there are more chances that you eventually later in life can develop dementia or Alzheimer's as well. Yeah, that is Ayurveda's knowing, and it is a disease which develops over a long period of time. This is not something which is you're gonna just wake up with it one day and think, oh, I was healthy. There are signs of it even on the way. Every so often, and then you adjust something, you take some supplements, and you kind of forget about it. But it is mainly coming from your digestive health. Eventually it comes down to what you're eating and also how healthy your gut is. Yeah. I think probably and you can also talk about a little bit about the importance of gut, but I think because so many things about gut have been normalized, like bloating, constipation, and even IBS is so normalized as if it is normal to have these. It is not normal to have any of that, right?
No, exactly. And one of the it's obviously one of my favorite topics, diabetes. And I do tell my diabetes clients and community that you are on the trajectory for Alzheimer's. Why? Insulin resistance.
Yeah.
And so, if you develop insulin resistance, you need to reverse it. There's absolutely no two ways about it. And here's the thing, you're 100% correct. By the time you've had an MRI scan to confirm or diagnose that you have Alzheimer's, it is too late. It
Yeah.
takes 20, 30 years more for some people before it starts showing up. But just imagine if you looked at the MRI scan, you got this beautiful, healthy, spongy looking brain, two hemispheres. By the time you get diagnosed, it's like crunched up and mangled up. So, how are you going to undo that? So, the brain health is critical. And we'd start off with the gut. And what are the things that sugar, obviously, I said insulin resistance, so eating sugar. Um, what are the foods that are most damaging to the gut that may lead to Alzheimer's?
I think damaging in the sense if you do not have enough fiber in your diet, and most of us are not having enough fiber because we have come from where we were eating. We were hunter gatherers, so we were eating a lot of tough plant based food, which added to the fiber, and we were taking. Our gut was working on that fiber, and now we don't have that fiber. Even the fibrous flour, for example, the wholemeal flour is so white, there is no brownness to it, right? Because they have milled it so fine. But you don't need that. You need the roughness of it because that is what slows the gut down and that is what helps your gut to absorb all the nutrients from that.
Yeah.
So I think that is one of the biggest things that we are missing now, fiber. And fiber not in any other form, fiber in its original form, like the skins of the fruits that we can eat.
Mm.
All of those things, I think that is mainly missing, which is also related to immune health, and it is also related to autoimmune conditions, of course.
Yeah, and a lot of people are under the illusion that if you have an apple juice, and I was, by the way, guilty. Apple juice, you put it through your juicer, and you got this beautiful tasting apple juice, and you throw the fiber away. Oh my God, that's the worst mistake. And you know how I knew it was a mistake? I remember making carrots are good for you. Carrots are very, very good for your health. And eating it raw is actually probably one of the
We
best
never
ways.
peel carrots. My
Yeah.
kids have never had peeled carrot.
Well, and that's the thing. I juiced carrots and I gave it to my dad to drink. He liked it, and then he started testing because he had diabetes at the time. He tested his blood sugar, and it had shot up because, in essence, you're drinking liquid
Yeah.
sugar with a few vitamins in there, but no fiber, and the fiber is absolutely critical. And not only that, though, she's the order in which you eat does make a difference
Yeah.
because a lot of people have this tendency they'll eat the sweeter, tastier thing on the plate first, the potatoes, the chips, which you kind of should avoid as best you can. Although I have to admit, after several years, I had a plate of not plate of chips, small portion of chips the other day with my food. But that was in after about 3-4 years, so I
Yeah.
forgive myself. So it's okay, by the way, just to let you know, it's okay to sometimes eat stuff which isn't necessarily good for you because it's rare. So what people will do is go for the carbs, the high glycemic index carbs, and then eventually, oh, do I have to eat the broccoli? Which is absolutely the wrong way around. You do the fiber first,
Yeah.
then the proteins, then the fats, or the fats and then the proteins, doesn't matter. But carbs right at the end. So fiber is important. Processed foods. Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Before we come to processed food, I just want to say that puring everything, like smoothing everything, juicing everything, that's not how normally we have developed as human beings eating that, right?
Mm,
We eat whole food, whatever that is, whether it's apple or vegetable or broccoli. It's better to eat broccoli on its own rather than juicing it up. Or
yeah,
even if it is in a smoothie, even if you have juiced it up, all of it, fiber is still there, but still, it's better to eat it. It is
yeah,
also having, by the way, an impact because people are eating less, so they're taking all these convenience smoothies. It's having an effect on, guess what, dentures and the teeth, because we are not doing this action of eating food. So I just wanted to mention that eating in its actual form and not juicing up everything.
And then
And
I'm gonna throw in this curveball here, because one of the things that people may not be aware of is when you're chewing, you actually, well, you'll be aware that you'll have more saliva. Saliva reduces, it has some of the enzymes you need to digest your food.
yeah,
That's important. But the curveball is this. I heard one of the eminent Dr. Bruce Lipton, is actually talking about how we have something, what they call tonsils. Okay,
yes,
tonsils, they filter in, they pick up some of the foods that you eat. So if you've got bacteria and pathogens in there, it activates the immune system at a very early stage. And so allowing yourself to chew and then slowly digesting it gives your immune system a fighting chance to deal with any microbes that shouldn't be there. I mean, look, Mother Nature, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, Humpty Dumpty, whatever you want to call it, created us in absolute amazing perfection. We still haven't been able to replicate, other than cloning, a new human being from scratch. So, we have been created over hundreds of thousands of years. That's as humans, and then before that as well. So let's let's talk processed foods, because we're having this fascinating discussion earlier on before the recording is about processed foods and vegans, etc. But let's start off with just processed foods. What's the big deal about processed foods?
processed foods have got additives or added stuff in it. The actual food in itself, it doesn't matter if it has been stored. We also, as human beings, have been storing vegetables and fruits, pickles and jams and all sorts of stuff, because they are not always in season, and that is our way of preserving them for longer. But as with the industrial production of food, now what we have is, with processed food, we have got too much sugar, too much salt, and other extra preservatives in it.
Mm.
And sometimes some of those extra preservatives are actually genetically modified as well, because if you really read all the E numbers and everything, it's horrifying. So that is what is causing an impact at the cellular level. Of course, extra sugar and salt, which is going to have its impact, and other additives which they are adding. For example, monosodium glutamate is one of them that I can think of, and there are so many others that are added. They have an impact which you don't even realize, because it is on your cells that they're causing. They're reducing your energy levels, and also they are then changing the physiology of your cells. So that is the long term impact, which also you can pass it on further down the line, genetically or hereditary. So that is what why processed foods are extremely, extremely bad.
And so processed foods, I mean, to keep it simple, anything that's got a label and it's got ingredients in there because they have to put the ingredients on, that's a processed food. If you buy a celery or an apple, they don't have an ingredients list because humans don't add anything to it. But processed foods includes stuff like sausages and salami and pepperoni, and in the Asian community, you're probably aware, because being an Asian, of course, that, well, maybe you're not aware because you didn't come to this country until about 25 years ago. Um, if you went to an Asian store, meaning Indian subcontinent, Pakistani, Bangladesh, Indian store, all the foods you will see were fresh. The only things you will see which were canned or bottled, or canned or bottled jars, I mean, would be pickles, achars we call them. So they're actually good for you. You didn't see, these mixed masala spices because, we hadn't invented them at that point
Yeah.
for the general market. And there's no drink fizzy pop, but that wasn't an Indian thing. So generally, you will see all this amazing range of fresh food. Today, I grew up in the UK and I saw that. Today, you go into an Asian store, the amount of foods, including halal sausages and
Yeah.
salamis, is absolutely horrendous. My friends, no matter what community, what ethnicity you're from, Alzheimer's will affect you. Diabetes seems to be one of the Indian subcontinent seems to be top of the list. Six times more likely to get diabetes.
Yeah.
And by the way, remember, diabetes is linked to Alzheimer's.
It is. Yeah.
And so you have to protect it like a ninja. But then yesterday I was in one of our supermarkets local here, Waitrose, and I was picking up some, I don't know, Chinese cabbage or something. And as I was going past one of the vegan aisles, I just noticed, oh, look, vegan food. Every single one of them are processed.
Yeah.
None of them were none of them were fresh foods. It was all let's talk about that. People who do veganism do it either for health reasons,
Yeah.
or they do it for compassion reasons, or I mean that's those two are the ones that I mainly can think of.
Yeah.
What about the food that they eat?
Yes, I don't want to be bashed by vegans here. I'm a lifelong vegetarian myself, but I think certain things we need to be aware of. The long term impact of processed food. For example, the soya based products that vegans eat in so many different ways, vegan sausages. Now we have this fake meat that people are eating. I cannot even look at it. I've never eaten it. I cannot even force myself to eat a bite of it, even though I know it's vegan, but the processing, the amount of processing that goes into producing that, it is not healthy for us. Our gut does not recognize that food as a healthy food because it has been so processed.
Hmm,
So if you want to be vegan, then you have to find natural vegan foods
exactly.
which are vegan but naturally occurring.
Hmm,
Same if you have any kind of sensitivity, for example, gluten sensitivity or any other nut allergy, for
hmm,
example, or any other sensitivity, then you have to find foods which are naturally free from that,
hmm.
right? I do not recommend any free from food for anyone because it is not good for you. And also there are studies that I have looked at, because there have been so many people who have been using low sugar diet. Yeah, low calorific foods have been there in the market for some time now. That has been linked to Alzheimer's, right? Because again, they're using processing and they're using so many other chemicals, and there is no sugar has been taken out, or extra some, what is it, the chemical sugar that is added just for the taste of it, which is actually more harming for your body.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So
So
yeah,
aspartame and sucralose and so on. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So it is about, if you want to be vegan, then you have to, and then it is going to become harder, because what people are doing is, if you're a meat eating person and you become a vegan, then you're looking for same kind of looking foods, meats and sausages, but they should be vegan. And that is why there is this range of processed foods. Whereas if you are somebody like me and in India or countries like India, it is easier to have vegan meal. It is so easy to have vegan, vegetarian, Indian meal,
We have
because
choices there.
sorry.
We have choices there, and we know how to cook. That
Exactly, exactly. We don't have that much here because we don't have that many beans and pulses that we eat as part
mm,
of the usual diet here in the West. And all we are left with is meat. So I'm not in favor of vegans who are eating processed meat, processed food, because it is not eventually good for the body.
so we're not looking at it from a moralistic point of view. You've got
No.
to choose. The point is this: choose the least, in fact, minimal, if in fact zero processed food. You can be a vegan; it's not impossible. Yeah, there's some issues there. Um, but then, we can argue the same point about people who are just purely carnivore diet. That's got major, major health implications
Yeah.
there as well. But for some people, it works because they've got an autoimmune condition that, perhaps means that's the only thing they can do. Not an issue with that. This is not about political statements here. This is
No.
stop eating the grabby processed foods. And what's interesting is that processing foods is exceptionally profitable to those big processing companies. It is exceptionally profitable. It has minimalistic effort on their part because when I grow my own vegetables and fruits and so on. So there's a lot of effort in that. And if you're doing mass farming methods, it's very expensive. It depends on the weather and so on. And so what's horrifying to me, and this is not about veganism, is how the people are discussing these ground down insects, and they're using that to make burgers out of insects, and vegans are going for that. I don't understand it.
What's
I
that?
insects. They literally insects. They'll dry them up, grind them down, and that's now used as a food substitute.
For vegans?
No, 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 no.
No,
What, not necessarily just for vegans. I mean,
but yeah,
literally
yeah, okay.
burgers. I mean,
Because
that's
vegans wouldn't be eating that.
no, 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 no. So just be mindful. You know, don't believe anything we say. Trust your own research. Meaning,
Yeah.
look at all the science. Look at the science, and the mass media advertising, well, just don't trust it because there's only one incentive for them. Seriously, that's one incentive. And
Yeah.
so the more you go back to nature, the more you're going to be protected. So moving on. So the kind of foods to also avoid are minimize, if not, if you can't avoid it. Rice is very starchy, and the glycemic index of rice and potatoes is high. But if you're from a culture like we are, Ashish and I, where we have a lot of rice, there is a little trick you can do. You cook the rice today, put it in the fridge. 24 hours later, the glycemic index falls significantly. Same with potatoes. You cook today, but again, you don't overcook potatoes. I mean, potatoes, you want to steam or boil, you don't want to roast. There's issues with that and cancer. So keep that in mind. Now, I was watching a little, actually, it was on TikTok. Dr. Daniel Amen, he's a brain surgeon, a brain doctor. I don't know if he's a surgeon, but he's been researching brains for the last, since the 1990s anyway. We're talking about multiple thousands of studies. And he was talking about alcohol. And that alcohol is, we're told that alcohol in moderation, it could even be healthy for you. It's not bad. But of course, it's sponsored by the alcohol industry. However, studies show that alcohol basically damages your brain in
Yeah.
any quantity. So you understand the biology of the brain or the
Mm.
biochemistry. You got gray matter and white matter. White matter is the protective matter. It's a communication network within your brain. And when you're taking high sugary foods, alcohol included, by the way,
Mm.
you're causing insulin resistance. The blood is not circulating effectively throughout your body, but that also includes the brain. And so the issue isn't, and which Dr. Heyman was saying was the issue, and these are separate videos now we're talking about. The issue isn't that the brain is dying naturally because of aging. The issue is blood is not getting to the cells, it's not getting to the brain, which is obviously massively linked to Alzheimer's. So
Yeah.
you want to be avoiding, treat yourself like as if, and I'll say it, treat yourself as if, okay, if I'm a diabetic, what must I not do and what can I do?
Mm.
So, and we can go even deeper. I mean, it's like going down a
Yeah.
rabbit hole.
I
So,
know you are going
yeah,
deeper
yeah,
into.
exactly. And smoking, no, Alzheimer, forget it. Anything that stops the blood from going to the brain, no, smoking is one of them.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about body constitution because I know it's your favorite topic. Body constitution, and is there a link between Alzheimer's and body constitution? Is there a particular type of constitution that is more likely to develop Alzheimer's?
What we see from an Ayurvedic perspective is when you have we have three body mind constitutions: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So Vata are the people who are really constantly thinking and thinking. They overthink also if it is not controlled, and if the circumstances such, or they're rushing, they're doing so many things. What we see as an Ayurvedic practitioner is that there is more tendency for Vata people to get more Alzheimer's or dementia. Why? Because they have got many more million thoughts than the normal of us, whether it's a Pitta or a Kapha person. So, because there are so many, they're just exhausting their brain in a way. Yeah. And dementia is also something which is more common in them. So, it is related to the brain activity, excessive amount of brain activity without giving it any nourishment. So when you are constantly overthinking, and you're not giving any time in between your thoughts,
Mm.
It is not helping you. You are constantly in flight or fight mode. You're just, your body is constantly in this mode of just surviving. Yeah, I have to survive, I have to survive. So cortisol levels are high, insulin resistance will get high because there is a link there. So that is the chain of events that will happen, and it happens more obviously in people who are more vata type.
So, if you want to find out your body constitution, we have a link at the bottom. Click on that link and find out what it is. It is actually very, very important. So what about someone who's not Vata, but they're worriers? They think a lot. I presume it's the same that applies.
Same thing applies for Pitta and Kapha. If in their lives at certain points they are thinking a lot, and they are going through that phase where mind is, cannot stop thinking, there are chances that you are actually reducing the blood flow to your brain because you're just in that phase of just constricting everything, which is also one reason why you will probably get stroke or other conditions like that, because blood flow is not flowing to your
Okay.
brain. Yeah. And also because most of the people do not do any exercise, like when we do headstands or any exercise where you are bringing extra amount of blood flow to the brain. Body is very efficient overall to bring blood flow to your brain, but I'm talking about when body is not efficient, when you're obese, when you are sedentary, when you are not helping with that lifestyle, or your diet is such, that is when you will need extra effort, such as exercise where you can put your head, put it on the floor, or forward bend, for example, we do in yoga to bring more blood flow to the brain. So
Okay.
yeah, it is the same for other doshas as well, for pitta and kapha, but vata are the one who are more prone to it.
Okay, so beautiful. So that kind of links us in really nicely. Let's talk about, you've already mentioned yoga, and not just the specific techniques you can do. If you're overweight, don't do a headstand, just to let you know. But inversion positions, anything that involves your head being below your waist level. Um, and so make sure you go to a good yoga teacher who knows what they're doing, because I have to say, I'm not impressed with all the yoga teachers. There's some amazing ones out there, but it's like anything, there's more yoga teachers than there are people who practice yoga at the moment in the UK, anyway, and probably in parts of the United States. So, strongly suggest get yourself a good yoga teacher who understands health more than just doing positions. They have to understand that yoga is a
Yeah.
lifestyle. So, let's talk about what else can improve blood circulation to the brain. So, you talked about.
You
Um,
know my other favorite thing.
I know that's what I'm leading on to. Let me build it up. So, how does breathing? I mean, if you've watched any of our episodes before, then I'm sure you're going to be laughing your head off. But how does breathing help? Actually, how does breathing help people, or can it help people improve blood circulation to the brain?
Absolutely, you've just answered it. It improves the blood flow to your brain, and specific breath work there will help, and regular breath work will help. This is not something that you start doing in your 70s, although it will still help, but start doing it wherever you are now.
Yeah.
There is no excuse, whatever kind of pranayam or yogic breath. And because we do specific methods, so it is bringing a lot of oxygen, and our brain uses so much oxygen and so much glucose. So it needs extra. So, from time to time, once a day at least, give it that much extra boost so that it can open up all the channels or the micro channels as well, and help with the what we call the health of the neurons and the nerve endings,
Hmm.
right? And that becomes then more sensitive to the, because as you know, you are master of insulin resistance and disease. What happens that nerve endings start to desensitize, they do not feel anymore because sugar is actually literally eating your neurons away. So when we take breath, extra deep breath, it brings extra oxygen into our blood, and that helps to get things flowing also, because our heart is pumping and doing that action, uh, improves the blood flow and including our brain. So that's what happens.
Okay, so breathing exercise, and I will tell you how serious it is. Both Ashish and I, in our practices with our clients, we integrate pranayama, breathing techniques, breathing exercises,
And in our lives.
And in our lives, I do it. I mean, this morning, I mean, I do it every morning.
Yeah.
4:45 in the morning, I have a small group, very small group of people where I practice pranayama. We do it for about 20 minutes, and then we go into meditation
Yeah.
um, every single day. So, it's something that we take very seriously. So the other thing is, of course, if you have an overactive brain, I do. If you're on social media, scrolling, social media has been designed by psychologists, I mean, and people who understand programming of the human mind using software programming to keep them addicted to phones and addicted to scrolling. Why do you think TikTok is so popular? Because they've just absolutely mastered it to the nth degree where people just want to scroll. All of that is not doing you any good. So this is why not only breathing, the other thing to do is, of course, I mentioned it already earlier, meditation. Meditation is vital. And if you want to know more about breathing, by the way, we've done an episode, the link is below. We've done an episode just on breathing techniques. So breathing is important. But then meditation. Now, meditation isn't about having an empty head. Even some of the most advanced Buddhist monks in the world, um, they don't get total emptiness. They get it sometimes. The idea is, okay, if I've got thoughts, one thought, another thought, one after the other, what I want to do is create space between the thoughts. And this is where the breathing comes in, because even though you can't quieten your mind, you can use counting your own breath in your head as you're breathing in and breathing out and so on,
Mm.
counting it and making the in breath and out breath longer and longer. Meditation can be easy, but once again, there's a lot of apps out there. There's a lot of stuff on social media. A lot of it's nonsense because a lot of people, when they're meditating, I can promise you, because I've seen them in action, I'm a meditation teacher, is they're not meditating. They're asleep, or they're sitting up, but they're actually asleep. And their
Yeah.
mind is all over the place. So it's very important that I feel very strongly, not because I'm looking for meditation students, I'm not, I've stopped that. Um, now, I focus on diabetes. So what I recommend is you get an instructor, a guide who can guide you. So that's meditation. But then let's come on to a couple of my other favorite things, which I do anyway, which is, besides what I've just mentioned, sauna. Now,
Yes,
Dr.
that's
Rhonda,
favorite.
you knew I was going to come to that. Dr. Rhonda Patrick does a podcast called Found My Fitness. You should go and watch that or listen to her on Spotify or Apple. And she's done a lot of research, but she refers to the research done by some Finnish university. I can't remember which one, but I think the study was on men, 2,773 men. Yes, that's specific, over the space of 20 years. And they've discovered what they looked at is a control group. They don't use a sauna. They took a group who use sauna less than one, between 1 and 3 times a week. And then another group between 4 and 7 times a week. So here's what they found. Now, this is ballpark figures. If you go to the sauna twice a week, sorry, yeah, twice a week, 3 times a week, between 1 and 3 times, compared to somebody who doesn't go, you reduce the chances, the probability of Alzheimer's by 21 or 22%, low
Mm.
20s. It is mind blowing. Of course, you're going to increase blood flow and oxygen flow to your brain because your brain's getting heated up, your head's getting heated up. Now, get this, those people going to a sauna between 4 and 7 times a week reduce their chances of Alzheimer's by over, I think it was 65 or 66%. How mind blowing is that? I'm not going to swear, I promise. How mind blowing is that? That it's at our fingertips. Some of
Yeah.
the things we are able to do is at our fingertips. So I strongly encourage all my clients who, and anyone else, of course, you don't have to be a client, that if you've got diabetes, if you've got insulin resistance, or if you're just a human being, go to the sauna 4 times a week. And what really upset me was 3 years ago when they did the lockdowns, one of the first places to close down were the saunas and the
Mm.
gym.
Mm.
Two of the things that you need most. So,
Yeah,
and
I have something I want to add here,
yes,
which is wonderful about Ayurvedic medicine, or even it is now cultural practice in, of course, our countries and India subcontinent, yeah, is the practice of head massage. And head massage, because it is invigorating, you are touching the brain. There is, I don't see that being as a cultural or even medicinal practice here in the West. I
Hmm.
mean, I have seen people who have never touched their head. I've seen people who always go to a barber or a hairdresser to get their hair done. They've never even used shampoo themselves. uh, so, but we have that practice of head massage done at least once a week. In India, it used to be practiced every Sunday. Everybody's massaging their head first. They put a lot of oil on, and then they go and have a shower afterwards. Yeah. And that helps because you are actively innovating all the senses around your brain. Yeah. What also will help with that is to put oil in your ears and also oil in your nose. You can actually put oil in your eyes as well, but you have to definitely choose oil which is cold pressed virgin. But oil or ghee. Ghee works really well. Plain ghee, warm it up, cool it down. When it is liquid, put few drops every day. 5 drops you can put in both the ears, because it is linked to ENT. It is all linked to the brain.
Yeah, yeah.
And also the nostrils, 5 drops, 5 drops. It is one of the therapies that we use in Ayurveda for brain health.
Wow. See, this is new to me. I mean, the hair thing, no, that's not new to me because I saw when I was a little boy, I saw my mum used to put amla oil back in the day,
Yeah.
Indian oil. Now, just for anyone who's not from the Asian subcontinent, so in India, they call it head massage, and if you're not from India, you're from UK or US, Indian head massage. So but in India, it's not called Indian
Yeah.
head massage, just so you don't get confused. Okay, so another thing that is very, very useful. Again, we're staying on the physical. We're going to go on to the nutritional in a minute. So there's research. I don't have it up in front of me on my computer or anything like that right now, but there's research strongly associated with people who are able to do leg exercise. I'm talking about weights now, weight training, squats, deadlifts, tend to have more longevity and better brain health. This is coming from universities. You have better longevity and brain health. What does that mean? Well, first of all, translate it into normal lay person's terms. Doesn't matter how old you are. Number
Mm.
one, go walking as much as possible, and particularly upstairs, up and downstairs, up and down a hill, trekking. That is good for you. Second thing is, I don't know why people don't do it, but as you age, one of the exercises most useful compared to aerobic and everything else, yoga definitely, just because we
Yeah.
go through yoga. The one of the exercises is weight training. So consider getting it, and I'm not talking about having to lift, like Arnold Schwarzenegger would lift, but lift as much as you can with a guide. Get someone who's a personal trainer who can help you, or whether you do a Zoom or in person, just get it done. That will also help you. I'm just wondering what else can help. So the idea is, of course, all of these things that we're recommending is about oxygen flow and getting more mitochondria, meaning your energy factories working to generate energy. So they're the key things we're talking about in terms of the physiology. Now let's talk about foods, brain foods. What is good, Ashish? What are the things you recommend from the Ayurvedic world, which, or maybe general, that masses can use to improve their brain health from an early stage?
Well, we know the importance of essential fatty acids for brain health. Studies are there to prove women should also be taking essential fatty acids when they're pregnant to help with the brain health of the babies. And then for ourselves also to have supplements. You can also have omega 3, 6, and 9 in the form of different types of fish that you can have. Fish is linked to good brain health because of the essential fatty acids that they have. And from Ayurvedic perspective, it is good amount of fat and ghee that is also linked to the health of the neurons itself, which then eventually add to the health of your brain. So those are the key, I think, foods or food groups, which is, of course, we are talking about antioxidants. We are also talking about the usual balanced diet. All of that is there. But if I have to really pick It is the essential fatty acids, and then fat in other forms like ghee, butter, proper fat. We're not talking about margarine.
No, no, avoid margarine like the plague. And just in case you're wondering what kind of fish, there's a whole range of fish: salmon, trout, tuna, herring, sardines. Of course, the more fresher they are, the better,
Yeah,
meaning rather than tinned, eat the fresh ones. And if you need to take supplements, of course, you want to take, good quality supplements.
yeah,
And also, actually, there are certain algae which you can take as well. I can't think of what they are from the top of my head because I don't use any, but do consider that. Other things you could be also taking, of course, is avocados. Avocados are rich as
absolutely. Yeah.
omega-3 fatty acid. And my favorite drink, coffee. Don't drink too much of it, but black coffee, by the way, I'm talking about, is good for you. It's full of antioxidants. It improves your mood. Anything that sharpens your brain. You know, I
And
can tell you some of the. Sorry, go ahead.
nuts and seeds also.
Nuts and seeds. So some of the worst things that we can do to ourselves as we age is do less work and sit down on our backside and watch television. Get rid of that damn television. You don't need it. It's not there for your benefit. Okay, it is not there doing you any good. If you need to watch it, I don't have a television. If I have a desire to watch a movie, I get my computer on, switch it on, and I watch it directly onto the computer. But we mentioned antioxidants, blueberries, raspberries, those kind of things. How about turmeric? Because there's inflammation, chronic inflammation is linked um, to Alzheimer's. So, is turmeric any useful, Ashish? Because that's your territory.
Well, I'm laughing because turmeric is not an answer for everything. Yes,
No?
it's an anti-inflammatory herb. It's a great herb, but it's more of a gut and liver herb. We have wonderful herbs like Brahmi and ashwagandha and gotukola, which is actually more specific brain health herbs, and we give them in all sorts of various forms and in forms of oils and ghees as well to put in the nostrils. Those are the ones who are shown to improve neuron health and also to increase the number of neurons as well, if you are talking about. But again, those changes are very minuscule when we are talking about somebody who's already have Alzheimer's. What we are talking about is more to put things in place preventatively so that you always do them and take brain health herbs. Also, if you are somebody who uses your brain a lot or that you find that you get very, very tired mentally, then you should be using what we call adaptogens, herbs which help your brain health.
Beautiful. And just in case you're wondering about nuts, walnuts is a good one, and seeds, pumpkin seeds is another good one.
Yeah,
Eggs are also good for you. The One of the things that, I mean, green tea as well. One of the things that I absolutely love. I did a webinar last night live with one of the world's pioneering experts in terms of advocacy. Is ozone therapy. Ozone is oxygen with three molecules. Uh, Ozone therapy. I didn't realize he's going to. We talked in terms of context of diabetes, but then he was talking about the impact it has on many things,
brain.
particularly Alzheimer's, because by using ozone therapy, you're super saturating your bloodstream with oxygen in the form of ozone, and then it breaks down and turns into O2 instead of O3. So, if you want to find out more about that, we won't talk about it here, but I would seriously consider, if you are at the early stages of Alzheimer's, is to consider getting ozone therapy. Watch the webinar, I'll put the link here. And the other thing is, again, I've yet to see all the research myself, but hyperbaric chambers apparently are also useful. I've never used one myself. Ozone therapy, yeah. So
Mhm.
I would consider that. But then one more thing. What can we do to keep our brain active, Ashish? Because it's not a muscle, that kind of is. What can we do to keep our brain healthy in terms of um, brain activity instead of just scrolling through social media and so on?
Yeah. What scientists are finding and evidence is showing us is that if you learn a new skill, and that new skill could be anything, and you do not have to go into a competition with anybody else to learn, and yes, I have to learn it in 10 days, or no, it's not about that. It is about learning something new, where your brain has to form new pathways to be able to learn that, whether it's a new language, or whether it's I don't know, if you don't drive, then learning driving, or if you don't ride bikes, then learning to ride bike. Some new skill that you develop in your own time at your own leisurely pace will help. It brings it creates more new neurons, and it is good for our brain health, because otherwise we are creatures of habit. We are doing the same action over and over and over again every day. Most of us do, unless we are actively pursuing something after every 6 months or every year, so that is something that I would recommend, a new activity.
Brilliant. Okay, wow. I've just looked at the time, and like this is probably one of the longest episodes we've done. It's mind blowing. Don't blow your mind because you want to preserve it. So, yeah. Okay, let's wrap this up. So,
Yeah.
let's summarize this. Type 2 diabetes. I talk about it so much. That was the first word that came out of my mouth. Type 2 Alzheimer's disease is something that is a lifestyle disease. It is preventable.
Yeah.
I've just mentioned ozone and hyperbaric chamber as potential support mechanism to help it maybe slow down. But actually, the reality is, if you are aged anywhere near 30, meaning 29 or 30, that's when you start, at the latest, start. Well, you can start later, but that's when you really need to start
Yeah.
treating your brain with true respect. Because the truth is, when you put crap into your mouth, it's very close to your brain. When you put that crap into your mouth, you are dishonoring your brain. You are not a god. You are not some kind of. I believe people are superheroes, but you're not like Superman or Wonder Woman or something. And and so don't rely on medicine to fix you, because there is no medicine, and there may not be any medicine for Alzheimer's for hundreds of years. Maybe there will be. I don't know, but not probably not in our lifetime. So I'm very strongly recommending, we both are, to do preventative measures.
Yeah.
And we've listed a whole bunch. Please go and watch go through chapter by chapter, because I'll put timestamps. Go and watch the episode again. Make sure you share, make sure you like, and make sure you come back and watch it, because we've covered a lot. And make notes as well. If you have any comments, questions, please do ask. We will answer them and do our best to support you. Thank you very much for watching. Ashish, is there anything last thing you want to say before we wrap this up?
Like I always say, I think this is just, we are just touching the topic today, just opening it up for our discussion, and also providing with natural solutions that, for providing a bit of inspiration for everybody who's never looked into natural health, or natural medicine for that sake. We will revisit all the topics again and go into depth from a different angle, right? So we'll do that. But yes, any questions, feel free to ask.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. You've been watching the Natural Medicine Podcast, or listening to it with myself, Harun Rabbani, and Dr. Ashish Paul. See you next week. Bye for now.